Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Inga Cotton. I'm the founder and executive director of San Antonio Charter Moms, and these are Charter Moms Chats, and we've been doing live videos to help families get the resources and the information they need to keep their kids learning in spite of the pandemic. And we talk about things like navigating school choice and what events and resources are out there. And I'm super excited that we have a repeat guest, and Audrey is here for kitchen chemistry. So this started last summer. We did our Charter a Summer of Learning guide, and we had like different activities each day. And she made some wonderful activities for us. And we asked her to come back and do it during the school year because we're hoping that families will want to give this a try on the weekend. And so, well, let me introduce Audrey. So she is the regional director of primary schools for BASIS.ed. And so she's actually coming to us from Arizona. Where she says it's kind of gray and gloomy there, but that's unusual for Arizona. It's usually really so sunny, like it burns your eyes. But we have BASIS charter schools here in San Antonio and in Austin. So that's how Audrey and I got connected. And but so before she came into this leadership role, she was a 4th and 5th grade science teacher. And I foresee that someday Audrey will probably have her own like super popular YouTube channel or something, like all these cool science activities. But in the meantime, I'm really grateful that we get to have her back on Charter Moms Chat. So thank you, Audrey.
Yes, thank you, Inga. I'm so excited to be back with San Antonio Charter Moms today. We've got a fun activity that we're going to bring to you today. We'll also be sharing some more information about BASIS charter schools, specifically our campuses that are in San Antonio and Austin. So very excited to be here. Today, Inga, I thought we could make a snowstorm in a bottle because despite the fact that it is gloomy in Arizona today, we never get winter weather. And I know in Texas, it's rare for you guys to get winter weather. And so I came up with this activity where we can, if we're not going to get the snow naturally, we can bring the snow to our kitchens. And so that's what this activity is all about.
Cool. So do you ever ask your students, like, have you ever seen snow? How many of them have actually like seen snow?
Well, so I used to teach in California and now I'm in Arizona. So very few. I remember when I was a teacher in California, telling my students about snow days. And it was just this concept that they couldn't even wrap their heads around. Yes, exactly. In Arizona, a little bit more likely because a lot of our kids like to go up to Flagstaff and play in the snow on their holidays and breaks. But there are some of those kiddos who are just totally desert kids and have never seen snow before. So this one's always a lot of fun where we can pretend it's snowing in our desert classrooms.
That's awesome. Okay, so I want to mention that in the description of the video, there's a link to a blog post where Audrey has there's graphics and photos, and there's a list of materials, and there's the procedure, and all these like additional extra learning you can do. So I just want to remind folks that please click on the link in the description so you can enjoy the whole blog post. But but if you could tell us about what materials you need to make it.
Yes. So you're going to need a jar, I think a clear jar so that you can see the snowstorm effect. I think a mason jar, if you have one at home, works great. You could also use a flower vase or a tall drinking glass. These experiments, they're called kitchen chemistry because they're really meant to use what you already have in your house so that you don't have to go out and buy additional supplies, especially during a pandemic when it can be a little bit harder to come by supplies. So we start with a clear jar. And then the next material that we need is oil. I use baby oil for this experiment because it's clear. And so I think it gives a really nice snowstorm effect. But you can absolutely use cooking oil. Your snow will just have a little yellow tint to it.
Yellow snow.
Yeah. And then we need some white paint, really any white paint that you have at home, kids' craft paint. This is acrylic paint. We need a little bit of that. And then the one that makes the magic happen, or as you know, I like to say makes the science happen, is Alka-Seltzer tablets. So hopefully you might have these in your medicine cabinet at home, maybe in the back shelf. I was able to find some on Amazon though, and they got to me pretty quickly. And then if you are doing this with younger kiddos and they want to make it a little bit more magical, you can absolutely add food coloring. You can add glitter. I have some glitter here. It's not necessary, but it makes it a lot of fun. All right, should we get started and make a snowstorm in a bottle?
Let's do it.
Okay. So we're going to start with our clear jar here, and you're going to fill your jar to about 3/4. So the blog post recommends a measurement, but it's really going to be dependent on your jar size. So I'm going to take my oil, and again, I'm using baby oil, and fill my jar about 3/4 of the way. And I'm a little less than 3/4 because I'm using all the baby oil I've got.
That's right.
And then we'll just set that jar to the side. And in a separate bowl, any mixing bowl that you have, we're going to combine our white paint with our warm water. So I've got my white paint, and I'm going to do about a teaspoon of white paint. So I get a teaspoon here and put that in. And then I'm going to combine that with 1 cup of warm water. So I boiled some water earlier, and then I've just been letting it sit to cool off a little bit, but you can use just warm water out of the tap as well. And we'll measure 1 cup. And pour that into the bowl with the paint. And then what we're going to do is take our spoon and just mix up our white paint with our warm water, and we're looking for a consistency that I say looks like a slushie or melted ice cream or anything that you want to think of, just incorporating the paint into the water. And this, again, is going to give our white snow effect. All right. I think we're just about incorporated there. And the next step, we're going to bring our jar with our oil back into picture, and we're going to take our white water mixture and pour it into the jar with the oil. Go ahead and do that. There we go. Okay. Now, if you're doing this at home, I encourage you to pause here before moving on to the next step, because there's a really cool learning opportunity for kids at home. If we look closely, and mine's still making its way there, but we can start to see 2 layers. So on the bottom, I have my water and white paint, and on the top layer, I have my baby oil. And as I said, this presents an awesome teaching opportunity to ask your kids why they think this is happening, what they notice, what is going on. And what we see here is that our water layer is at the bottom because it is denser than our oil layer. So it is moving towards the bottom. And then if your kids are asking more questions, but why is that happening? We could take it a step further. Our water is what we call polar, and our oil is nonpolar. And polar molecules and nonpolar molecules, they really don't like each other. They like to be as far away from each other as possible. And so when you mix them together and force them to be in the same jar, they'll separate into 2 separate layers, so they don't have to touch. They really don't like being friends with each other. And they're what we call immiscible because they don't mix. So this I think it looks really cool right now.
It does. It's really settled. I mean, the oil is really clear, and the water is all at the bottom.
2 distinct layers very clearly. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. If we're getting fancy and using food coloring or glitter or sprinkles, now's the time. So just to show, I've got some blue glitter here, and I'm going to add some to my jar. Really, you can go crazy here and add as much as you want. I'm sure
my daughter picked white iridescent glitter. That was the kind my daughter picked.
that would look really good. All right, and we just kind of let the glitter settle to the bottom.
Right.
All right.
Again, density, right? That's why whatever's densest goes on the bottom.
Settling to the bottom of our jar. All right, now we take the fun part, the Alka-Seltzer tablet. Really, you only need one tablet, but you can keep the experiment going longer if you have more tablets. And we're going to take one tablet and we're going to break it into a few pieces. And they're pretty easy to just snap with your hands. So I'm just snapping mine like this, and I've got a few chunks there. All right, we're going to add, we'll start with just adding 2 chunks to the bottle, and we'll stop, make some observations. And then once your kids have made some observations, they're going to be very excited. They can keep adding Alka-Seltzer to it. The other thing that I like to tell kids to do is to get down and we look at what we call the meniscus. So this is when we get eye level with what is happening. When we're making measurements in science, we always get down to the meniscus as well. People do this in their kitchen all the time when they're cooking, and they don't realize it's actually a scientific technique. So we can really see what's happening and get accurate measurements. So we're going to drop our tablets in, and then we're going to get down, look to the meniscus, and make some observations about what's happening. All right, here we go.
Good deal.
And 1, 2, 3. Pop those in. Hold it nice and low. And Inga, I think we've got a snowstorm in a bottle.
Whoa, look at that. Oh my gosh, the glitter. It's just extra.
I know, the glitter's going crazy.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So this is a point where I like to just let the kids observe and try and come up with an explanation about what's happening. And then we can take our other piece and we can get it going again, pop it in there, and really watch
Woo! Wow,
what is happening.
That is so cool.
Yeah. So what's going on here is these Alka-Seltzer tablets, they're made up of sodium bicarbonate, and sodium bicarbonate makes bubbles. And so when we drop the tablet in, it's making bubbles, or we call it effervescence. And because we put white paint and that settled to the bottom, those bubbles are capturing some of the white paint inside of them. Then as the bubbles float up to the top, when they get to the surface, they pop and the white paint trickles down and it starts the cycle all over again, making our really cool snowstorm effect in a bottle. Yeah. So that is my fun winter activity for non-wintry areas during the winter months.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. So when I did this in the backyard with my son, knowing my son, I figured the backyard would be better. And like he used like the whole box of I mean, he kept adding more food coloring, kept adding more Alka-Seltzer, and like it kept changing, and it made foam, and he just had so much fun with it.
It's one of those experiments that you can keep going back to, get another packet of tablets added in, get down, make some more observations, and let your kids just really explore with it and try and make those guesses about what's happening and just really start to enjoy and love science.
Yeah. So I wanted to touch on like some of the really cool stuff that you put into the blog post.
Yeah.
And so one of the things we always try to do with the at-home learning projects is tailor them to different ages, so that, for a family, if they click on the post and they want to do it at home, like, how they can make it work for their kids. So if for a family that has really young kids, they could sort of introduce it with a story time, right? And that's adding like literacy and more knowledge to it. So what are your tips for adding a story time to this to make it more engaging for young kids?
Yeah, absolutely. Your toddlers and preschoolers, they might not grasp the, some of the scientific components that we talked about today, but it doesn't mean that they can't get something out of it and really start developing curiosity and a love for learning and a love for science. So when I'm doing activities like this with really early learners, as you said, I always like to start it with a story time. And I try and find a story that is going to introduce the concept that we're about to talk about. So really any book about snow is great. So, we're going to talk about snow, getting them really excited about the topic, getting them involved in the story, and then saying, okay, now we're going to try and make our own snow in our kitchen today. And when they make this, they might ask us, is this snow? Do I really make snow? And I think this is, again, a good learning opportunity where we can use those compare and contrast skills and say, well, let's talk about the snow in our book and the snow that we just made. In the book, it said snow was cold, right? feel your bottle. Is this cold? And say, no, okay, so that's a difference, in the book, they were able to take the snow and pack it into snowballs, right? Can we pack this into snowballs? No. And so you say, what we made looks like snow, but it's something different. And that's just getting them, again, making those connections, getting them excited, and getting them really curious about the topic.
Yeah. Using their observation to answer questions. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And making observations is one of the key components of being a scientist. And the scientific method is to, make observations about the world around us and then start to make those connections.
Yeah. And even young kids can act like scientists by making observations and comparisons. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and then for older kids, that's where they start to get a handle on the science concepts, right? Mm-hmm. So, can you kind of recap, like you mentioned, like the meniscus, and you talked about density and polar versus nonpolar and immiscible. Yeah. So how, like, what are some ways to, get slightly older kids engaged with those concepts?
Yeah, I think sometimes we worry that these might be a little bit too childish for our older kids, but I had some time working with high schoolers. I ran a chapter of the National Science Honor Society, and I have to say the high schoolers get just as excited about these activities as the little guys do. And what's really cool is they can start to understand what's actually happening. And so this is where I like to just ask questions or see, do you know what's happening here? Have you guys talked about this at school? And so say, why do you think there's two layers forming in our jar, and get them to try and make the connection, the fact that there's a denser layer, and that the polarity of these two substances is different, making them immiscible. If your teen is taking chemistry in high school right now, they've probably learned of the phrase like dissolves like. And they can use that to make the connection. Okay, well, these two are not incorporating into each other. So obviously these are not like substances.
Right. But the Alka-Seltzer does dissolve in the water.
Yes. So great observation there. And then, ask them, how do you do your science experiments at school? When we're pouring and doing measurements in the kitchen, have you ever noticed that I get down like this? I'm trying to get at eye level to get really accurate measurements or observations. That's called the meniscus line. So those sorts of things can really make an extension for your middle grade students, and then your high schoolers can probably get there on their own. And if you have multiple kids at home, you can task your high schooler with helping their younger siblings.
Right. And the blog post even has formulas that, to explain, like, what's happening with the sodium bicarbonate, right? And then the acid that's reacting with it, and the magic of the effervescence. And as we have some fun comments. So the folks at BASIS.ed are cheering for you. Yay! And then my friend Abel, he's at School of Science and Technology. Of course, they love science projects too. So
yeah, that's awesome. We want to build a snowstorm. Let's get it going again.
That's right. Yeah, but like that could be, like you could get a storybook, or even watch the movie Frozen as a part of.
Yeah, that's a great idea. A good weekend activity. You can make a full day out of it. And as I said, you can keep coming back to it, keep adding more tablets. And you can see I just added another one in there, and it's going again. Another thing that I like to do, as long as you have a lid that is that will seal on your jar, is have your kiddo put the lid on, seal it, and then shake it really, really hard. And what they'll notice, because they might think, well, I can make the oil and the water mix. I just got to really shake it up. Okay, shake it as hard as you can, and then put it back on the counter, and they'll slowly start to see those two layers form again, which is really, really cool.
Yeah, that's good. And it burns off some energy too, because they're like shake.
Yeah, there you
go. That's awesome. This is a great experiment. It's so visual, and I like we tried it with the corn oil, which is yellow, and then like red. We put red paint in, and it looks like lava.
Yeah, there's a variation of this experiment where you can turn it into like an at-home lava lamp and add different colors and make it like a lava lamp instead of a snowstorm.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, no, I like in the blog post, you've got links, to talk about like, like encyclopedia articles to talk about real snow and like how real snow is made. And like you said, it's a way to make comparisons and observations and and think about like, okay, it looks like snow, but what about real snow?
Yeah, I mean, especially if you've got one of those kiddos who just asks every question under the sun. We might as, it's good that they're getting so excited. And so in the blog post, we've offered some links to other resources and websites that they can go to that are kid friendly, so they can really take it a step further.
Yeah. Oh, so I'm super excited. You did a great demonstration of it, and I think like the blog post does a great job of laying out like what the ingredients are and what the steps are. So I'm confident that families who watch this video or read the blog post, they like go do it at home this weekend. You can do this with your kids and like kind of break up. Maybe some of your activities aren't available because of the pandemic, but this is something you can do at home and keep learning and add a little excitement. Yeah. Even if there's no snow outside.
Even if there's no snow outside.
Yeah. Well, one of the reasons why I'm so grateful that you're coming on and talking about this is that, not only are you a great science teacher, but you also are an expert about BASIS charter schools. And that's something that we talk about on the blog, and, parents join the Charter Moms group to ask about. And so I was wondering if you could talk more about BASIS charter schools and, if you show us your shirt.
Yes.
Which school are you repping today? BASIS San Antonio Northeast.
No, I'd love to. So as you mentioned earlier, I'm the regional director of primary schools for BASIS.ed. So I support our primary school campuses and school leaders in Arizona and in Texas. And what we offer is a rigorous, accelerated liberal arts curriculum with a STEM focus. Lots of people think we're STEM schools. We love STEM at BASIS, but it actually is a very well-rounded curriculum. Our humanities courses are amazing. Our kids study the arts in depth as well. I was a former science teacher, so obviously I'm a little biased towards the science. But we have a number of campuses right in San Antonio. Our newest campus is San Antonio Northeast. And this coming school year, it's offering to grades K through 6. It is a beautiful new campus, recently renovated, and they do have seats available for this school year. And now's the time to apply to guarantee a spot. But we offer grades K through all the way through 12th grade right in San Antonio. We have 4 campuses in San Antonio. And then we also have 1 campus in Austin, plus an additional Austin campus opening up this school year as well. So we've got BASIS Austin and BASIS Austin Primary. So if you're a little bit outside of San Antonio and Austin's more convenient, definitely take a look at those campuses as well.
Yeah, no, I'm so impressed with the quality of education at BASIS because, it goes back to what you said about the love of learning. About like I see how enthusiastic kids are, just how much curiosity they have, and then they have these teachers who are up for the challenge. And so like whatever questions the kids throw at them, the teachers are like, oh, good question. Let's talk about this.
I think that's something that's really special about our schools is that BASIS charter schools we hire subject expert teachers in traditional schools, especially in the elementary years, you usually have a homeroom teacher that teaches all of the subjects. Starting in 1st grade, every different subject that our kiddos take is taught by a different subject expert teacher. So someone with a background and content expertise in the subject that they're teaching. Before coming to BASIS, my background was actually in chemistry and toxicology. And I was hired to be a science subject expert teacher. And what's really awesome about that is that I got to spend all day just on the subject that I love. So I got to just teach science. And because I have a background in science and it's what I studied professionally, when my kids ask me questions, I really had the knowledge to pull on to be able to take those questions really, really far that I might not have if I was also trying to teach English or history or math. I'd probably be okay in math, but some of those other courses, I might struggle a little bit. And so our kids get that experience from their teachers, and they also just benefit from having teachers who really love the subject that they're teaching and get to nerd out on it with them.
Yeah. That's the when I haven't, it's before the pandemic, when I would visit a BASIS campus, that was definitely the vibe that I got, was that like the kids, like they would be, like in like engineering or connections, like they'd be, building stuff and just so engrossed in their pile of materials and what they were building. And It's wonderful to watch kids, really enjoying what they're doing that much. Oh, I see more bubbles,
We're
more
going
snow.
Yeah, we really try and bring the learning to life. As I said, we're a rigorous program. We really value hard work, but our mentality is that it's going to be hard work, but we're going to do it together and we're going to have a lot of fun. And then at the end of the day, we're going to be really proud of what we've accomplished because we've worked really hard to get there.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. I'm really happy to have this science activity that like every family can do.
Yeah.
And I hope that some families might be inspired by this and think like, hey, I want my kids to have that level of learning. I want them to get to do cool science projects, and then they can apply to BASIS. So
Yes.
we have a little note from BASIS.ed. So BASIS San Antonio Northeast, that's the campus that has some open seats now.
Yes.
And then so you can apply now for this school year, but they also have next year they'll be offering K through 6, right? Like as the school grows, they add more grades on.
Correct. They're offering K through 5 currently, and then we're adding the 6th grade next year, and every year after that they'll add one more grade, so that we'll build it out to be a full K through 12 campus. So if you want to send your kiddo there now, they can stay there through 12th grade.
Yeah, and like you said, if for example, BASIS Chavano goes all the way up to 12th grade. Correct. Already. So yeah.
Yes, that's our middle and high school campus. That campus offers grades 6 through 12, and then we have 2 other primary schools in San Antonio. Our medical center campus and our North Central campus, which offer grades K through 5. So there's lots of options in San Antonio. Wherever you're living, check us out.
Yeah. And on the blog, on the SC Charter Moms blog, we have an enrollment guide blog post, and it lays out lots of different things about BASIS school culture and like what kids get to do, whether it's like martial arts or what languages they're learning, all kinds of stuff, and and how to get enrolled, stuff like that. So
awesome.
we try to have a good resource.
Open house this past Wednesday with our CEO, and I got to speak on it as well. And so we'll be publishing the recording from that too. So if families have more questions and are looking for answers, that's going to be a great resource available on our websites and social media pages.
Okay, I'll be sure once that's up, I'll be sure to share it in the group. So
awesome.
Okay, Audrey, do you have any more tablets? You want to drop one more in?
Yeah, let's do a little bit more. I've got a might as well.
Yeah.
Let's get it going again.
Look at that. More snow. Look at that.
But yeah, definitely head over to San Antonio Charter Moms and find the blog and try this out at home this weekend.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, although we usually do it in the backyard, not the kitchen, because we get messy.
Backyard's a great spot.
Yeah, but we call it kitchen chemistry because you can do it with stuff in your kitchen.
In your kitchen, yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Audrey. I look forward to more projects.
Yes, thank you for having me, Inga. I can't wait to come back with another episode.
All right, take care.
Bye.